Welcome to the channel, and in this video I wanted to show my collection of Wanted from 2008, as well as talk about the comic it adapted. I rewatched the movie recently after not seeing it for quite some time. Action movies have had quite the renaissance lately, after films like Raid Redemption and John Wick set a new standard for what we expect in an action movie. We've now moved on from that nauseating shaky cam bullshit and that rapid editing style. Now, I'm not saying that The Raid and John Wick were the first to have that style of action, but in my opinion, those films were so well received by the critics and audiences that they were the ones to set the bar for action movies going forward in this modern age. Getting back to Wanted, it definitely holds up well and is still a lot of fun. What doesn't hold up is the comic it adapted. I read it like 15 years ago maybe, when I first started getting into comics, and all I remembered was how different the movie was from the comic. The premise for the comic book is that supervillains have killed all the heroes, and after Wesley's dad is murdered, he is recruited to take his father's place in this fraternity of supervillains who are now secretly running their world. So the movie takes a little bit of that premise, with Wesley being recruited to join a fraternity of assassins instead of supervillains. The only scenes that the movie adapts are Wesley's life in the beginning, where he's living a worthless life and he's a complete pushover. His girlfriend cheats on him, and he has a super bitchy boss at his desk job.
I feel I can speak for the entire office when I tell you, go fuck yourself.
The last scene the movie shares with the comic is the shooting the wings off the fly scene. From then on, they just go in completely different directions. The comic makes Wesley a pretty despicable character, where he's committing senseless violence and sexual assault as he ingratiates himself with these villains. And that's just where I had a problem with this book. Wesley never has a redemption arc. Instead of being a worthless pushover, he's just a worthless asshole. And I guess maybe the point of this book was his transition from a pussy to the ultimate killer. But it just feels like Mark Millar, the writer of the comic, was just writing something to be very edgy and have it be the antithesis of superhero comics. Like, every other word is fuck, and it just comes across as it was written by a 14-year-old who uses a bunch of cuss words and likes to say homophobic shit, making it age very poorly. I've liked quite a few of Mark's work, like Old Man Logan and Civil War, Superman Red Son, Kick-Ass, and Kingsman, also a movie that I feel is better than the comic. If I asked you what you remembered from the Wanted movie, you'd probably say it's the movie where they curve bullets. That was actually made up for the movie, and that's one of the many differences. The only main characters that appear in both are Wesley, his girlfriend, his friend that his girlfriend cheats on him with, along with his bitchy boss at the desk job, the dad character, and the Fox character. And in the comic, Wesley is modeled after Eminem, and Fox is modeled after Halle Berry. The comic doesn't have Morgan Freeman's Sloane character, and there's no textile mill with the loom of fate. Wesley's big plan at the end doesn't involve a shit ton of peanut butter and thousands of rats with explosives tied to them. The script went through many revisions over the couple years it was in production for, and apparently Miller approved of most of the changes the filmmakers made to his story. Overall, I think the basic premise of the comic is good, and I like the theme of predestination, and for that reason, I think it's worth another adaptation. Just change the cringy dialogue, the senseless violence, the sexual assault, and give a satisfying character arc for Wesley. Getting back to the 2008 movie, I own a few different iterations. I'll show them off and talk about the movie itself, along with some tidbits about the physical releases. First up is my favorite release for this movie, and it's this limited edition collector set DVD. It comes in a pretty thick acrylic case, and I wish more studios did stuff like this. Most movies nowadays have a cardboard slipcover in a plastic case or a steelbook, but not a whole lot of variety lately. The front has a bullet lodged in the front, and the back is heavily sun damaged because I used to have this sitting on my windowsill. The movie is housed inside what looks like a hardcover book, but with a cloth-like texture. There's numbers and letters etched into it. You can even see they added Wesley's name on it, which I never noticed before. The discs inside are stacked on top of one another, but are held inside with a bullet. That's the cool thing about this set, is that it feels so authentic to the movie. It also comes with a little booklet and has info on 4 of the characters. Angelina Jolie was great in this movie, and I think the last movie I saw her in was Eternals, that Marvel movie that you probably have forgotten about until now. This was probably the first movie I saw with James McAvoy in it, and he's still killing it to this day. This film is probably one of the only few times Morgan Freeman played a bad guy, and you got Common, and I thought he was in it more from what I remembered. Another cool thing this set comes with is a 3D motion film cell from that scene where Angelina Jolie curves the bullet around the room and takes out the rest of the fraternity, including herself. Next, I had the Blu-ray Steelbook. Universal put out a line of steelbooks around 2013 and 2014 that had this comic book style paneling. It makes sense for this movie with it being a comic book adaptation. It contains all the previous special features from their prior releases. One feature that I rewatched for this video was about bringing the comic book to the big screen, and they didn't really talk about any of the differences or the changes that they made. The screenwriters and the director Timur Bekmambetov talk about how they would always go back to the comic when working on a scene, but they would show scenes that actually stuck close to the book, and I was hoping for more answers as to why they went in such different directions. Mark Miller was also interviewed for this feature, and he said he came up with the idea for the story when he was a kid, and maybe that's why the dialogue sounds like it was written by a teenager. I also have the UMD, and this was only available in the UK, but it is region free, so I'm able to watch it on my PSP here in the States. On my most recent rewatch, this was what I used to watch the movie again, and like I said in the beginning of this video, I wasn't sure if the action would hold up by today's standards, and it just absolutely does. I haven't seen Timur's prior films that got him noticed by Hollywood, but his style really elevated this movie. Some standout scenes for me was the scene where Wesley's dad, and I'm using air quotes, when he jumps out of a window and takes out all those gunmen on the rooftop while he's still in the air. Another scene that I forgot about was when Wesley storms the factory and he's running through and taking everyone out, all the while he's picking up new guns from all the gunmen that he's killed, and then he kills the repairman character and uses his body as a shield while firing his gun through his head. That was pretty fucking awesome. There's other fun moments, and if you haven't seen this movie in a while, I honestly would recommend rewatching it. It's streaming on Max right now, or you can always just support physical media like my dumbass and buy one of its many releases. Lastly, I have the movie tie-in game. It's a pretty fun game and acts as a sequel to the movie. It's a third-person shooter and it allows you to bend bullets to take out enemies. Also, Wesley dons his costume from the comics, which was pretty cool. I know I always mention that movie tie-in games usually suck, but I always end up praising them whenever I show one off in one of my videos. But this one, from what I remember, was actually a lot of fun. Thanks for watching this video. Let me know what your thoughts are on either the movie or the comic in the comments section below. I'll see you guys in the next video, but until then, have a movie time.
Yeah, it was great, bro. Who's the man?